I wanted to do a video that looked way beyond, like way out beyond this fall for RPGs, way out beyond 2024, really into 2025 and beyond, to know what should we be excited about that RPGs that are coming, at least soon-ish. Games that I think will make a big splash over the next couple years. And then Avowed went and got delayed into 2025, forcing me to decide between a game like Crimson Desert, which looks like an RPG merging gameplay from The Witcher and Monster Hunter, the upcoming Obsidian RPG, which is looking better than expected, or our number 5. The number 5 that I picked on this list after careful consideration. A game that just looks a bit different, especially from some of the other titles on this list. One that I think will really just scratch an itch that I don't think many of us knew we had. One that we may have been missing a little bit. An evolution of a genre that many of us are familiar with, but in an entirely different way. Because really, this game, this number 5 game, looks kind of phenomenal.
We'll break the cycle, so she can't steal anyone else's future.
This world is full of wonders.
Yet everywhere we go, we walk with death.
Do you mean we're the only ones left?
C'est magnifique? No? That was dumb. That was cringy. I'm sorry. Whew, I need a timeout for that one. But, you know, I'll just put it into my usual vernacular, my much more usual vernacular. Holy shit, this looks really cool, right? How could you not be excited about this one? I guess unless you don't like turn-based. But how could you not be excited about this one? Because it looks so good. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is an RPG described by Rock Paper Shotgun in short as an evolution of JRPGs set in 19th century France in which you fight a mad painter. It was one of the standout reveals from Microsoft's Summer Showcase earlier in 2024. The story trailer looks deeply emotional, high impact with a really compelling and sad story. An expedition set to destroy the paintress so she can never paint death again, with compelling tagline, year by year, she erases us. It's a turn-based RPG inspired by Belle Epoque France. The general idea we're given by this little introduction is the year that is painted on the monolith will cease to exist, and that year that begins in this game is 33. So anyone who is 33 years old will die. It's a JRPG-style turn-based game with reactive real-time actions, with a party of up to 6 characters where you can craft new builds for your different party members to fit your playstyle via gear, stats, skills, and character synergies. It sounds like you'll be able to dodge, parry, and counter in real time, despite it being turn-based, as well as a game that will have a free aiming system. Just look at the combat here. It definitely looks like it might be a game that will take some getting used to the controls, but it looks fascinating to me, even if I'll probably be pretty bad at it, at least to start. Kind of, I guess, like a Final Fantasy VII. Perhaps the most eye-catching of all, though, has to be the visuals. This game looks gorgeous and haunting, and when it was first revealed only recently, it caught the eyes of many with its incredible detail. It's an RPG that begins with an otherworldly premise that's enshrouded in enough mystery to elicit questions. Who is the painter? Why did the previous expeditions, such as Expedition 34, fail to defeat them? What will become of Expedition 33? And how the hell can one being eliminate everyone so easily? It looks like an RPG full of fantasy, mystery, emotion, and engaging gameplay, especially for those that have an affinity for JRPGs and turn-based combat. I can't wait to learn more about this game, and really, I can't wait to learn more about this story because it's hooked me. I want to know. I want to know more. Our number 4 on the list is also going to be an emotional story, but it shifts away a little bit from France, but still very firmly in the realm of the unreal. We have to jump over to James Olin's newest sci-fi adventure. James Olin, the former BioWare developer who worked on games like Knights of the Old Republic, is teaming up with
pew, pew, pew. All right, we'll see how that handled.
Matthew McConaughey. Okay, so we could ignore that part a little bit and just let's talk more about the game.
C'est magnifique, non?
The rest of the game actually looks pretty great, and the more we learn about it, the more excited I'm getting. The space RPG is built around the idea of time dilation, with decisions you make in-game as a traveler carrying tremendous moral weight as they can have rippling effects not just on your immediate present, but across generations. As the traveler, you will be tasked with saving humanity, which shockingly won't be easy, as you bounce around time and space after stealing the weapon from an alien foe known as the Celestials. Why do we always gonna steal shit that we shouldn't touch? Like it feels like we fuck shit up a lot. But honestly, a lot of this is starting to feel a lot like another sci-fi RPG from none other than BioWare, Mass Effect. And once you get into the gameplay, the proximity to Mass Effect is kind of more obvious, right down to the use of a mechanic called Orion's Gauntlet, which looks a whole hell of a lot like Biotics. Fitting with the BioWare lineage, the game will also have companions, though we don't know exactly how they will work. It looks like you'll at least be in combat with them though, and each with their own unique take. They'll all be important to the RPG. In fact, Robertson, the co-founder of Archetype Entertainment with James Olin, went on to say that the companions are a powerful way to tell a story, especially in Exodus with their unique time dilation dynamic. In fact, we've already met 2 of our companions with more to come. Tom Vargas, who we actually see in this trailer right here, has a bit of a tragic backstory, and quite honestly, from the trailers we got, I actually thought Tom was going to be our protagonist, the Traveler. The second companion, on the other hand, we're introduced to is quite different, and we don't get nearly as much of a look at them. Elise Chirot is a blunt, no-nonsense sleeper from the 23rd century's Earth that's an experienced mercenary, weapons expert, and former gang member who will have your back. Kind of like part Jack from Mass Effect, part Diva from Overwatch, at least the way I'm seeing it. They're probably going to be completely different, honestly, and that is not going to age well as a comparison. The trailer we got for Elise was a bit underwhelming, honestly, with what looked like some rough animations and a badly mixed vocal line that made it unintelligible and very high-pitched. Right here. But I do still gotta say that this is very early on in the game's development because we have no idea when this game might be releasing. So things could change. There are 3 other companions listed on the website with silhouettes and coming soon tags, with one looking quite alien, another looking small and human, and the third definitely looking a bit like a mech. What we do know about the game is growing, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know if you'll be able to create your own character, taking on the role of June in the way you would Shepard in Mass Effect, or if it'll be more limited than that. We really don't know much about the combat except that we've seen a few clips that we do have, and we have no idea when this game is slated to release. Out of all the games on this list, it may be the furthest away. Or the closest. We don't have any hints. I honestly don't know. For a game that is all about time dilation, we don't know shit about the time. But our next game, our third game, is the lowest budget game on this list. When I say the lowest budget on the list, it is the lowest budget at least for now, but eventually maybe one of the most expansive and potentially expensive when all is said and done. It is a Kickstarter RPG, kind of, but one coming from RPG royalty, the creators of Elder Scrolls Daggerfall, which went into Kickstarter not to entirely fund their game, but to fund another year of continued development while they seek to get the game into early access and get a publisher to give them the funds they need to bring their dream to life. The Dream Vision is a responsive and expansive RPG even larger than Daggerfall. In fact, twice the size of Daggerfall, at 201,160 square miles. The Wayward Realms wants to make a game based on 4 main tenets: scope, choices, consequences, and role-playing. It's a fantasy RPG that will have both first-person and third-person modes built in Unreal Engine 5, and it's been worked on since 2018. With 8 playable races, an in-depth class combat system with a mixture of melee and magic combat, dynamic faction relations, and perhaps, most intriguing, a world that is ever-changing, building off your decisions from the seemingly insignificant ones to the larger ones. Something that will play into the big idea of the game that has no main quest at all. No nagging main story to pull you away from those really awesome side quests. Side quests that might feel more like a main quest. There is no driving narrative to this game. You are creating it through your decisions. The consequences of your actions in this gigantic procedurally generated world of theirs. A main quest is replaced instead by smaller, more varied narratives based on the roles you take within the game, shaping it through major world events. And perhaps best of all, the Kickstarter was wildly successful, earning over $700,000 to fund the next year of development for the game, far exceeding their original goal for the Kickstarter. But of course, because it was a Kickstarter game, even if it was a successful Kickstarter, this one is going to still have some question marks around it, as it has its most uncertain future of any of the games on this list. After all, they still plan to potentially have another Kickstarter in the future. They want to get an early access version of the game around the end of 2025, but it's not guaranteed. That's just what they're aiming for. And then of course, they still need a publisher to finally bring the full game to life. That's a lot of what ifs, which I guess makes a lot of sense because the game seems to be built up on a lot of what ifs.
Not all stories have happy endings.
But our number 2 game, fittingly enough, takes us from the expansive, the mysterious, the macabre, to the dark humor, the funny, the British humor. An RPG that is certainly not Conkers, but will have a Cornish pasty and cornflower with a crane fly and cream cracker. But it's an but it's an RPG that is one that I'm super excited about because I loved the previous iterations of this British dark comedy, Fable. It's a game that I am super excited about. An RPG with a rich history. One that was genre setting in its own way. And one that might be again. Or at least we kind of hope it will. Fable is an interesting game because while it's coming from a legendary line of RPGs, one with some ups and downs, but one that was revolutionary at the time for its relevant choices, its humor, its chicken kicking, and honestly the ability to be truly dastardly and grow horns. But the new Fable, the 4th iteration, not counting special editions, is coming from an entirely new source, a developer that might be one of the most unlikely for a game like this. Playground Games. Playground Games, makers of none other than this game. Yes, the beautiful, venerable racing sim is going to be making the next Fable. The developers of Forza.
Oh, we're finally doing this, are we? Because I was going to make a sandwich.
From the racetracks to the muddy tracks, the distinctly British dark comedy riddled world of Albion has changed hands from Lionhead Studios to a venerable studio, but one untested in RPGs, leaving many questions about the game and whether it'll be good or not. So far, the trailers have done it some justice with lots of hints at the trademark dark comedy and surprise gags like this.
And magic live in perfect harmony. Not all stories have happy endings.
But that's most of what we know about it. The trailers have demonstrated a lot of the trademarks of Fable's tongue-in-cheek, Monty Python-esque tone, and more recently in-game graphics that look to have some incredible fidelity, and that's kind of mingling with some of the cinematic trailers that they've been doing so far. Which probably isn't that shocking given that it's Forza developer that we're talking about, a game that is absolutely gorgeous. But the little gameplay we have gotten is more gameplay shown in engine, not necessarily meaning that's what we're gonna get. So even with the trailers, take that with a grain of salt. This might not be exactly how it looks. Probably this is staged in all honesty. But we also know that this game is coming in 2025 at some point. It'll be releasing on Xbox and PC as a first-party Xbox release. In fact, we aren't even sure if your protagonist will be a created character or a pre-made character. We've routinely seen one badass woman in each trailer, but the end of the most recent trailer from 2024's Xbox Game Showcase was phenomenally well done in leaving you asking more questions.
She had it all. The skill, the talent, the power. She was something else, all right. She was terrifying. So, yeah, I knew this girl once who made all the wrong choices.
Humphrey. She's back.
I'm going to fix it, this place. And no one is going to stand in my way.
My God, as a fan of RPGs, I want to know more. And perhaps not quite as engaged and interested as I am with the story of the first game on this list, Expedition 33. I'm not pulled that much, but I'm still there's still questions bubbling up. Who is that? Could that even be you? Are you the person? It's with Fable, it's hard to know in a lot of ways because the prior games had so much freedom, whether you want it to be good or evil. But after this is kind of where we get into pure speculation. As many media sites will say, they assume there will be a character creator or a morality system, that the combat will be action-based, but quite frankly, we don't fucking know. Because while I can look at some of the footage in the trailer and say, this combat here looks like action combat, it could just be a shot in-game engine. And while we've seen the same protagonist in each trailer, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be the one you'll be playing given Fable's history of customization. And really, subversion. For all we know, you are the villain. And then there's the fact that as far as history, all the history of Fable actually probably doesn't mean a damn thing because this is not the same studio. Expect a whole heap load more info coming out in 2025 for Fable, and perhaps if we're lucky, a trailer at either the Game Awards later in 2024 or at 2025's Summer Game Fest. Whatever the case, each trailer they've released so far has raised my hype for the game just a little bit more than the one before it, and I can't wait to get more details. But we at least have more details on Fable than my number one most anticipated RPG. Number one is, of course, The Witcher 4. If CD Projekt Red hadn't gone out and confirmed that, yes, this game is not only in development, but the whole team has already moved over to the project and they're currently working on it right now, I might have included this in honorable mentions like some other big RPGs, because this game still feels pretty far off. But we now have a few extra details about this fourth Witcher installment, codenamed Polaris. Witcher 4 will be the start of a new trilogy, one that might actually be releasing in pretty damn quick succession, or at least crowded by other Witcher titles. As in an earnings call, CDPR's CEO said that the plan is to refine the processes for Witcher 4 so that they can release 3 big Witcher games in 6 years. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean all 3 games in the saga in 6 years, because you probably want some time for the games to marinate, to breathe, right? To sell a Game of the Year edition, of course. But it does sound like we're getting a lot more Witcher once this all starts rolling. Keep in mind, we'll also be getting a Witcher 1 remake at some point, though that isn't being developed by CD Projekt Red directly. First announced back in 2022, we now know that Witcher 4 has entered its production phase and it will be adding new gameplay mechanics and elements to the RPG that weren't in previous titles. It'll be made in Unreal Engine 5, leaving Red Engine behind due to a multi-year deal with Epic. And more recently, we found out that Geralt will be part of the game, but the keyword there is part of the game, not the main character of the game. There's no telling exactly who the main character is just yet, but we know it won't be the White Wolf, per their very own actor who said that while he wasn't sure who the main character would be, and he hadn't received a script yet, Geralt would not be the focus of the game. Obvious fan theories point towards Ciri from the fact that, well, we've already played as Ciri, the use of the links in the reveal, and the previous devs as far back as 2020 having lamented that they didn't get to explore Ciri as much as they wanted to, but nothing is confirmed. But all that to say, Witcher 4 we have a great game to build off of with Witcher 3, and going into Witcher 4, I'm just excited to see what CD Projekt Red is going to bring forth. But speaking of CD Projekt Red, we have to talk about some honorable mentions, some games that didn't make this five game list, mostly because they're even more nebulous, or perhaps even farther out than these other ones. First, we have to talk about a sci-fi adventure that I am very excited about. Mass Effect 5, which, like Witcher 4, has been announced that it's in very early development. But it will also have a lot of questions around it, really because of the developer, BioWare. If you compare it to the woes of CD Projekt Red, like with their Cyberpunk 2077 launch, they're kind of back ascending, winning awards for their recent DLC. By contrast, BioWare has a lot riding on the success of Dragon Age Veilguard coming out in 2024, something that could impact Mass Effect 5 as the company has undergone some tumult of late. But we know that Liara is going to be there, so that's enough. I'm invested. I'm there. I'm 100% in. And with talk of how Veilguard is kind of being turned a little bit more into Mass Effect, we might have a general idea that Mass Effect 5 will feel like a Mass Effect. But speaking of CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk 2077 itself is getting its own sequel as well, codenamed Orion, and it may have more branching story paths than the first game. This sequel is still in concept stages of development, so don't expect news anytime soon. But if Edgerunners ripped your heart out like it did mine, then more Cyberpunk goodness is on the horizon. Our penultimate game on the list is perhaps the one that we know the least about and will probably take the longest to release. Elder Scrolls 6. The game that had to wait for Starfield to launch before they could even start work on it. A game that they teased 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. 6 years ago. This game was teased before it started content. The teaser, which has racked up 18 million views in that time frame, gives very little detail about what Elder Scrolls will be like, and I think it's safe to say we're still quite a ways off. And while there have been plenty of theories about where Elder Scrolls 6 could take us or what it could do, I don't even know that they know yet what it is, because it doesn't feel like things have started yet on the game. But of course, the last games on this list, the games that I really want to end the honorable mention section with, would probably be at the top of the list if we knew a little bit more about them, just because of the brilliance of Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, Larian's unnamed RPG projects, which will be likely similar in size and scope to Baldur's Gate 3, which is a mind-numbing thing to think about, that they could be similar in size and scope to a Baldur's Gate 3, but Larian continues to expand their studio and make studios all over the world, so I guess that totally makes sense at this point. But there's one major theme with all of these games. They're all huge. They're all coming from big developers, big publishers. They're just big games. They're AAA games. But that doesn't always mean better games. That doesn't always mean better developers. In some cases, yes, but not always. So I pinpointed 5 indie titles, 5 indie RPGs that I think are going to be really freaking good coming up. Games that actually might be releasing sooner than you think. First-person RPGs, action RPGs, games that we can really sink our teeth into. And you can find out more about those awesome indie RPGs in this video right here.